Welcome back to Roundup Reddit. Today we're diving into some intense, am I the asshole moments that have sparked heated debates online. Let's get into the stories. Story 1. Am I the asshole for calling my wife fat? I, 34 male, work in a physically demanding field. Myself and my coworkers are all fit people without a lot of body type variety. My wife, 32 female, is fat. The thing is, she's always been fat. The whole time I've known her. We dated when she was fat. We got married when she was fat. She knows she's fat. She's fat and she's beautiful. I'm happy if she loses weight, and I'm happy if she stays where she is. I think she's the most beautiful woman in the world as is. One of my coworkers, Julia, 28, female, started complaining that she's too far to be loved, and fat people don't get to be loved. Julia isn't fat. She's maybe 120 pounds. She works out 5 times a week and barely ever eats. I told her that wasn't true and that my wife was fat. She got really red in the face and started telling me I wasn't allowed to call my wife fat, that I was insulting her, and that my wife was beautiful and curvy. Carol doesn't like being called curvy. She thinks it's a label used to avoid calling people fat because it's a dirty word to most people. I told Julia as much. Julia started threatening to tell my wife I called her fat. She pulled up her Instagram and told me she was messaging Carol that I was being mean. I beat her to the punch and called my wife, put her on speaker and asked if she was curvy or fat. Carol laughed and said, "I hate that curvy shit. Fat and beautiful, baby." I thanked her, told her I loved her, and hung up. As soon as I hit the end, Julia went mental. She started screaming that I was abusing my wife. When I asked how, she said I was clearly brainwashing her into accepting the term fat to try to keep her complacent and from getting away from me, that no woman in her right mind could be okay with their husband calling them fat. I showed her a picture of my wife in a shirt that had BBW on it. She bought it for herself. She stormed off and hasn't spoken to me since. Now, I just walked in today to an email from HR requesting a meeting with me. I don't think it's a big deal. I have my wife's blog for fat positivity, the shirt, and can easily call her for proof. But now, things are frigid at work, and Julia constantly gives me dirty looks when we're in the same room. She ignores me otherwise. So I'm just over here, scratching my head. Am I the asshole for calling my wife fat? Update. So, I met with HR at 4 hour today. Apparently, multiple coworkers who had overheard the conversation stopped by HR through the day to give their side way in. I wasn't in trouble, they just wanted my side of things. It checked out with what everyone else had said too. I still don't know which of my crew stopped by, but I owe them my life. I offered to show my wife's blog, and our rep, who's a really nice girl, told me that if it didn't affect my work, it was irrelevant. The story had been corroborated enough by others. HR reiterated a lot of what y'all said. Even though Julia initiated the conversation, I shouldn't have jumped in. It was less of a scolding and more of a request to keep my nose out of other people's business. I'm sad because I thought Julia and I were friends. We talked about our mental health struggles, the hardships of the field we're in, and heavy things like that. Won't be having those conversations any further. Julia and I will no longer be paired on teams for patient care. I was told my part in the investigation was done, and they thanked me for my time. So I think I'm going to be okay. Before I left, I told HR that if weight loss body image wasn't supposed to be a topic of conversation, they should consider enforcing that on a company level. We have a weight loss challenge. I suggested making it a fitness challenge instead. She said they'd take it into consideration. So, that's it. I wrapped up my treatments. Everything will hopefully shake out. Haven't spoken to Julia, hoping to avoid her for the near future. Thank you all for the sanity check. Now, to quote Clue, I'm gonna go home and sleep with my wife. Story 2. Am I the asshole for calling my boyfriend's mom fat at dinner? Hi, I 22, female. Met my boyfriend 24 male about 2 years ago. We have a great relationship and get along really well, and I could really see myself spending the rest of my life with him. There's only one problem. His mom. I will call her Mary throughout this story. After almost a year of our relationship, I really wanted to meet Mary and my boyfriend's dad, but he kept pushing it off. Eventually, he decided to set some things up so we could all go out to eat. When I first met his dad, he was nice, but I kind of got the feeling Mary didn't like me. Eventually, as I started to get to know them more, Mary started making really rude comments to me about what I was eating. She would say things like, "Are you really going to eat all of that?" Or, "Don't you think you should watch your figure a little bit? My son doesn't like fat girls," etc. I would laugh it off as a joke, but my boyfriend and his dad never said anything. This happened every time we would eat with them, and I started to lose my patience. This went on for months. Everything came to a boiling point at tonight's dinner we had. She started with her usual comments, but something about this one comment made me lose it. "I didn't cook a lot of food today, so please try to restrain yourself. I know it's hard for your kind." She made me feel like some kind of child, and I lost it. I slammed my fork on the table and stood up and yelled, "Maybe you should consider restraining yourself. Last time I checked, this is the second plate you've got fat bitch? Mary and my boyfriend's dad were shocked. Mary started crying, and I immediately felt bad. Before I could even say anything, my boyfriend grabbed my hand and took me to the car, and we went home. It was silent on the way home, and I asked if he wanted to talk, and he said, "Let's just talk about it tomorrow." He then went to bed, but I can't help but feel bad. I need to know if I was out of line, so Reddit, am I the asshole for calling my boyfriend's mom fat while at dinner? Edit. A few people have been asking what she meant by your kind. I don't want to jump to any conclusions because I don't know for sure what she meant, but I assumed it's because I'm black, and the percentage of obesity is high in the black community. Update. The mods wouldn't approve my update for some reason, so I attached it here. First, I want to give a big thanks to all your support and constructive criticism on my original post. You guys gave me some great advice, and I read a lot of the comments. My heart goes out to all of you who have dealt with something similar. I decided I needed to have a sit-down talk with my boyfriend yesterday, and I firstly apologized for calling his mother a fat bitch and said I should have set boundaries sooner. Immediately after, I still told him that the way she has been treating me is not okay, and I will not tolerate it anymore, and that she pushed me to my limit, and I don't want her in my life. What she said was racist, and I don't want anything to do with that. He said he accepted my apology, and he completely understood where I was coming from, and that he understood I didn't want her in my life anymore. He said he would have a talk with her about everything. It's his mom, and I'm going to let him deal with it. I got off of work today and my phone has blown up from text messages and missed calls from Mary. She was calling me racist names several times and was degrading me again. Before I responded, I drove home to my boyfriend and asked him what the hell is going on. He said he had a talk with his mom and it didn't go well at all. He said that she tried to turn everything around on me and said I was tearing the family apart. He said they argued back and forth for a while, and then he told her that until she gets her shit together and learns how to stop being such a horrible person, that he will no longer have contact with her. We cried a little and hugged. I know this was a hard decision for him. Nobody wants to cut off their mom. A big weight has finally lifted off our shoulders, and now I think we can finally focus on each other. Again, thank you all for the support you gave. Story 3. Am I the asshole for calling my sister a fat bitch after she insulted my son? I have a 19-year-old son who I will refer to as Max. Max has always been slightly overweight, not fat, but not skinny, either weighing around 250 lbs at 6'4". He was incredibly active in high school playing football, as well as wrestling for his school. He has always been a little embarrassed by his extra chub, but has been slowly growing more and more confident as he has gotten older, which has been incredibly encouraging to watch. My 39 female sister, who I will call Beth, and I have never had a strong relationship. During our childhood, she was often given preferential treatment due to minor health conditions she had, which led to her constantly tormenting me until I was finally able to move out at 18. After I moved, I had limited contact with all family. However, when I began to have children, my wife encouraged me to try to be more involved with family for the sake of my kids. My children became very close with my nieces and nephews over the years, so I continued to keep the peace for the sake of my kids. All of this leads to today, my niece's 22nd birthday. Of course, my family attended the party, which was held at Beth's house. In the beginning, everything was going fine. The kids were spending time with their cousins, while my wife and I were enjoying the party as well. Max was sitting on the couch in the living room, playing a game on his cousin's Xbox, along with his younger cousin, when Beth decided to provide the unwanted comment of, "You know, Max, if you spent a little less time on those video games, you could probably drop a few pounds. Maybe find yourself a girlfriend." The party fell quiet as Max sat there embarrassed by Beth's comments. I responded to Beth by saying, "Don't be ridiculous. This is a party. We're all sitting around eating and drinking, having a good time. Why are you trying to embarrass him?" To which she replied, "I wasn't trying to embarrass him. I was just trying to offer him some advice. It's not my fault he's so sensitive." After I heard that, I snapped back at Beth saying, "Who the fuck do you think you are to be giving my son advice about his weight? Max goes for a run every morning and works as a carpenter. When was the last time you climbed a flight of stairs?" Beth, looking offended, snarled, "Good Lord, I was just trying to help him out, and you insult me like that. You always did have an anger issue. I feel bad for you, wife." After that, I snapped. I yelled back, "You're just a fat bitch who tried to embarrass my son in front of all our family just so you could get some attention. Then you have the balls to try and insult me? Go fuck yourself, you stupid bitch." After that, my wife, kids, and I all left. Since then, my phone has been bombarded with texts and calls from family members telling me to apologize. I spoke to my wife about it, and while she agreed Beth was out of line for saying what she said, I took it too far and needed to apologize to Beth and my niece for causing a scene on her birthday. So am I the asshole? Story 4. Am I the asshole for calling my wife fat in front of our young children? Clearly, I messed up hugely. I said something extremely hurtful to my wife, and set a really poor example to our children. I disrespected and humiliated the woman I love. I'm deeply ashamed and feel dreadful for my wife and the impact I've had on her. I have apologized to my wife privately and also in front of the children. I also apologize to them for modeling such terrible behavior. We gave them a chance to share any feelings they had, which mainly focused on the loss of the chocolate. My daughter remarked I'd said something mean to Mummy, which was sobering and absolutely right. We couldn't find another egg. Instead, my son chose a tub of celebrations, which he has been happily sharing with his sister. Some wider issues were obviously shown by this incident. Firstly, my own issues with anxiety over my wife's health and how this manifests as me trying to exert too much influence over what she eats. I don't care about her weight for appearance sake. She will always be the most beautiful woman to me. What I care about is her high blood pressure and family history of heart disease. Her dad and brother both died in their 40s. This has made me pathologically obsessed with losing my wife. I now see this fear led me to be controlling and critical. I'm deeply ashamed of this. I'm working with a therapist to deal with my control issues and my grief over the death of my identical twin. My wife felt it's significant that the day I called her fat was the anniversary of his death, as my fear of loss was higher than usual. I know this in no way excuses my behavior, however. My wife has requested I continue to cook for us, prepare packed lunches, and encourage family bike rides. But beyond this, I'm not to be involved. She is smart, mature, and highly capable. I deeply regret losing sight of this. For her part, my wife apologized to our children for taking the egg and not saying anything. Contrary to what many people thought, I regularly buy her chocolate as gifts and at her request. She also buys her own too. She admits she requested no egg with the best of intentions, but regretted it later. She herself raised the possibility of a binge eating disorder, as she regularly will eat far beyond the point of enjoyment, leading to nausea. She is keen to pursue help for this, and she is planning to attend a specialist when she feels ready. My instinct is to encourage her to do this immediately, as I'm worried. But I now realize this is controlling behavior on my part. I will always regret what happened and will never stop trying to make my wife aware of just how beautiful she is in every possible way, mind, body, and soul. I am now aware of how deep an effect my heartless comment may have had on her self-esteem and will never forgive myself for hurting the woman I love. Thank you for helping me see how poorly I acted. Thanks for tuning in to Roundup Reddit. Which story resonated with you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time.